Gilbert Lassus. I was told I was born in 1951 in Puerto Rico. I was raised in a sugarcane field. We had a sugarcane field. There were no roads. It was actually a little village, like. And we were poor, but I mean, we had everything we needed, as far as food and clothing. And at that time, back in the 50s, my mom left to go to New York to work to send us money. My father, my grandfather and I, because he raised me. And it was great. I was outdoors all the time. Like they say, range chicken. When I was a range child, that was just free all over. It was great. And then I went to school there from kindergarten till about third grade. And then we came to Chicago to live, my mother and I, and my stepfather. I was 10 years old. I went to Wicker Park. Actually, I went to a couple of schools around there, Wicker Park, Chopin. And I went there from fourth grade to sixth grade. I went back to Puerto Rico to school. From sixth grade to seventh grade to eighth grade, and came back here and finished ninth through 10th. But it wasn't really a hassle. It was just part of growing up at that time. And I was I was 60. I graduated in 68 from 64 from Wicker Park, and I went to Thule High School. And I graduated from there in 68. But my stepfather, I met him, I was 10. It's a long story with him, but he and I just didn't get along at all. He would say nasty things to me and stuff. He never hit me or sexually abused or anything like that, but just verbal abuse. And that sometimes I wish he would have hit me because it would have felt. But anyway, and I kept back then. They showed Vietnam a lot on TV. You would see, how many people got killed that day, how many of them got killed that day. It was always on TV, and I thought, oh, wait a minute. I could see that there was a draft coming, and I'm thinking, man, I got to get away from this guy. We almost came to fisticuffs one day, and I just said, you know what, this is it. I was 16, and my mom signed for me to join the Air Force because I didn't want to go to Vietnam. I saw it on TV all the time. I said, I don't want to do that. Vietnam was Army and Marines. I said, man, I'm going to get drafted, so I'm probably wind up there. I said, no, let me just try and join. So I joined. My mom signed. I joined the Air Force. But from there, we went to Texas for basic training, and you take exams and everything, and I was pretty good in general stuff. But general consists of certain job functions that you can do. But anyway, to make a long story short, I was either going to be a cook or a military policeman. And I thought about being a cook. I said, I don't know. Then I got in trouble with my first sergeant. So he transferred me out and sent me to a missile base in Wyoming. Warren Air Force Base in Cheyenne. Anyway, I got there. We were just, we're going to missile sites, and basically what we were doing is pointing at missile sites. One day we would point them at China and Russia, and then with different days we'd point them different places. We were stationed in Nevada, Colorado, Wyoming, that whole area. So yeah, I used to just, go out there and like Bob was saying, you have 3 days off, 1 day off, or work three and have one, and three and one, and then you have three. But I got in a lot of trouble there in in uh, in that military site with my top secret and all that. But anyway, I got in trouble there, so I volunteered to go to Vietnam just to get out of the trouble I was in. Got sent to Vietnam. My first base was Phuket, Quy Nhon, and our job was basically, I was a sergeant. My job was basically to guard the perimeter, make sure that the perimeter was secured. But in front of me, I had Marines and Army, and by the time they got to me, but still, like you were saying, it was still, we were still getting bombed and shot at. But like I said, my mind wasn't always there. I was always high on something. When I got there in August of 1969, 1970, and I did a lot of. I was in charge of a tank, APC, but there was someone else in charge there. There were two of us sergeants, and he happened to be white, so I don't. It didn't bother me at the time, but I outranked him. But it did, like I said, it didn't bother me at the time. But in Vietnam at that time, you were either black or you were white. You weren't Puerto Rican or you weren't Mexican or you weren't, anything else. You're either black or white. So I assimilated with the blacks. Well, I'm part black anyway. But anyway, I digress. Basically, what we did was, my job was just patrolling the perimeter and taking my guys out to where the bunkers were and bringing them back in. Growing up, we saw a lot of John Wayne, Audie Murphy. All these guys were heroes, and you tend to think like that. So you're not thinking about getting shot or. But several times I had to go get some guys that were in dire straits. And then the only other time that I really had any, well, not only time, there was other times where we would get bombed. The bombs would go off, but they weren't pointed at anything. They weren't. Did you just apparently the Vietnamese or the Russians hadn't given them how to, hit certain spots. They would just shoot, and wherever they landed on the base, that's all that mattered. Several times I would just lay there, people would hide, go run and hide, and I just lay there. I said, okay, I mean, what's going to happen if I hide under their bed? It's still going to blow up. So anyway, that was one instance. Another instance, I was on, I had a bunker out in one of the woods, out in the perimeter, and we would go out there and set up claymores and all kind of booby traps. And then, I would take my guys, depending on where it was, and we would sit there for 8 hours, whatever, watching the perimeter. One time, it was late at night. I was there in my bunker, and I was sitting there. I heard something. We would just shoot anyway because no one was supposed to be there. We did that a lot, but anyway, this one time, there was it went off like that, and I started shooting, and then I noticed in the morning somebody dead, blown up. I don't know if I did it, the claymores. The drugs made it a lot easier because I was doing a lot of not a lot of heroin, but I was doing speed. We were doing marijuana, smoking a lot of weed. It just mellowed everything. Just mellowed everything out, and you were more accepting of your time right there at that point. You weren't scared or you weren't thinking about anything else. You were just with blacks and a lot of the whites too. The cool kids, whatever. they It was prevalent. I mean, you could buy it. You could buy it off right in. They would sell them in packs of 20s. The marijuana already. The Vietnamese would. You could buy opium from them. There was all kind of things. Now that's the route I went. Somewhere along the way, my life got diverted with my stepfather and the drugs and all that. In school here, I was a crossing guard. So I was already headed towards that law enforcement field and all that. My uncle's a policeman. My best friend's a policeman. His brother's a policeman. My niece is a policeman. My wife's ex-husband's a policeman. My two nephews are policemen. So I don't even know why I went there, just to let you know that, dang, it wasn't anything I had planned. And I didn't follow it religiously, like I got to be a cop and all this. They didn't take me because of the situations I got in Vietnam. That's what they told me eventually. So I just said, okay, fine, But so then I went into, I didn't pursue this Vietnam thing. I still had problems. I was doing a lot of drugs still, and drinking a lot. Because when I first got to Nam, I didn't know anything about Vietnam. No one did actually. I didn't even know where it was. And like I said, what I was trying to avoid was getting drafted and sent there and, be a grunt or something. And, but back in this, it was early 60s, there was a lot going on, just like there is now. I mean, there were riots, there were assassinations, all kinds of assassinations, you know, Kennedy, his brother, the young man over here on the south side with the Black Panthers, and I was part of some of those guys too. About 15, 16, I was still thinking in Spanish, because my English hadn't. So I thought of myself as, Puerto Rican, living in a Puerto Rican neighborhood. And there's so much to it. But, when we first came here, we went to the south side because that's the only place they rent to Puerto Ricans, where all the blacks lived. And, you assimilated. I went to school. I couldn't speak anything. They would run me back the black kids would run me back to the house every day. They wouldn't catch me, but they would run me. And the girls would say, hey, stop, leave him alone. He's got good hair. But that's the black kids and, how they treated me. So I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. So I knew I was still Puerto Rican and all that. And then somehow just going to school, you just forget identities, I would say. You just become part of whatever you're in, whatever group you're in or you want to assimilate. It was different. I mean, that little time that I've been in this world, 69, I'll be 70 next month. I grew up, no TV, no shoes. All of a sudden, everything, you see TV, you get to the United States, you fly airplane, and all this was new to me. It was, I had never flown in a plane, and everything in Puerto Rico was I had to go get my own. We had to get wood for fires. I had to go catch our own food. And we raised our own food. So it was hard assimilating or coming back over here and then turning, going to school of fourth grade, fifth grade, and then returning to school there and going to school and then coming back here. But, life knows what it's doing. God knows what he's doing. So it turned out, I've always been, I don't know, semi-intelligent, I would say. I just, so I loved reading. I love reading books. I love stories. And I did a lot of that growing up as an escape. But as I got older, it became part of my life. So everything was about, I didn't deal with Vietnam or the war from the inception, except from doing drugs and getting arrested and all that, about 10, 15 times. Before I started actually working, because I was a functioning alcoholic. I got clean I stopped at 39. I was thinking, you can only get so high. You're not going to get any higher than whatever, and then you'll OD. That's what OD is. I mean, it doesn't mean you're going to die. You're just going to overdose and pass out. So you're not going to get any higher. And I got tired of doing that. I got tired of just thinking about it all the time. So I said, you know what, and I started going to places to rehab places. I had this idea when I got to Nam or my stepfather or just going away that I was going to die young. I didn't really care. So I didn't think about where I was going or what I was going to do, or didn't have any plans. I figured I'm going to die one of these days anyway. But I didn't. But I was always a hardworking guy. I mean, I was always working, regardless of. So as it turns out, I went into my PTSD unit. I never bothered with Vietnam until I got out of I was ready to retire. And people told me, but you were in Nam, you were a military policeman, you were all doing this, you were doing that. You should apply for it. I said, okay. And I did, and actually they sent. I went to the PTSD clinic, not our clinic, but you had to stay there like 3 months at North Chicago. I went there for 3 months, first time, and then I went again because I kept having situations mental situations I couldn't deal with, and apparently they could. I never thought about killing myself, but I did think about it. Not killing myself, going through it and doing it, but actually thinking about it. 'Cause those were dire straits. I mean, I didn't know what the hell. So I went into the program. They let me in, thank God, and I spent 6 months or so there. And they came out with they gave me a rating. So I'm 100% now. But it's something I was dealing with all my life, and I never thought of the war being that impactful, on my life. Because I thought I was going to be a lawyer. I had plans, and now I see the people that are doing it. I'm like, shit, I could have done that. But life, gave me lemons, and I made lemonade. And now everything is things had actually turned out well for me, even though I didn't plan them that way. You tend to do things, and you don't realize the repercussions that they may have. You just do it. You may do it instantly. You say, "Oh shit, I want to," but then the repercussions. I get pissed sometimes so pissed, I could kill someone. I really could for that second. But then after that second passes, now you're spending the rest of your life after taking someone's life. Now you're spending the rest of your life in jail for a stupid little idea that came to your mind and you acted on it. I've been blessed in that sense that I used up until with PTSD. You go through a lot of that. They take you up to that point where you can stop. Then what are you going to do? You want to do this, but the repercussions. So you have that time to think about it, or take that time to think about it, as opposed to just doing it. And I always thought things out, and God blessed me, I guess, because I didn't become all the things that I could have. But I'm satisfied with who I am and what I've done. You're a kid, you're growing up and all that. But you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, you don't even know what you're going to be. I saw this one thing one time when I was on TV, and they had all these kids, and they had like 15 kids, and then they had them as adults. One was like a drug addict, one was a cop, teacher, and they're all sitting there. I'm thinking, that's exactly how life is. You never know where you're going to be directed or you're going to be, led. So I think I've been led. God knows what he's doing.